We're down a Davy Hazard again this week, and it makes me very sad. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
we've
I miss his cute little smile, you know.
yeah.
And he was
I'd say
at Bristol this week.
we've only had full cast like once in the last month, I think.
I know,
It's been a hot minute.
I
So
know. Yeah, because I was gone 2 weeks ago now. I was on a work trip. Davey was gone last week because he was on a trip.
didn't I
Gone.
miss an episode recently too? I think I did.
I feel like you're on the Iron Man streak though,
Oh, I might be. I'm gonna
I
have
mean,
to
you
go back and
are.
check.
Right? Like you're definitely on the. You're the one that has the longest streak right now. My
Yeah.
streak, I already know mine's gonna end in a couple weeks because I'll be once again out of town for work. Thank you, work. Man, I hate that thing that helps me pay my bills. You know,
Yeah.
really sucks.
I just hate having expendable income. It's the worst.
Right? It's awful. I hate having money to go do things I want to do. You know?
Yeah.
And not
That quick tangent, it always cracks me up when like people like my parents will talk about like, oh, high school was like the best time of your life. I'm like, that's such a depressing way. Like I like having money now.
yeah.
Like I couldn't just go do stuff if I wanted to when I was in high school, and that kind of blew ass. So
I mean, it's nice. Like I went on that trip to Indy, and then all the flight stuff happened for Davey,
yeah,
and it was like, all right, I'm just gonna go to the truck race because what the hell? What else am I gonna do with the
yeah,
next 4 hours? I was like, tickets
Yep.
$40. All right, whatever, it's fine. We're good.
yeah. It is always fun when you can just like the truck race is kind or truck series is kind of in that position where it's like, want to go see a baseball game today? We're not doing anything. Like, oh, let's
Yeah.
go see what's going on at the truck race.
Right. Let me tell you, I think that's why I like going to baseball games, just because now you've gotten me on a tangent because I went to like 4 Tigers games this year, which is the most I've ever been to in a season, because it was
Yeah.
super cheap in the last month, and they're rallying right now. Last I checked, they were up in the game they're playing right now, and they're in the second wild card spot in the AL, despite being like 10.5 games out at the start of August. So
Oh my gosh.
that's pretty amazing. But the gritty Tigers, the gritty Tigers. Anyways, but baseball games are so much fun to just go and vibe at, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
We went to that Sacramento River Cats game recently,
Yeah.
and the River Cats are just straight butt,
yeah,
but it was a good time.
that's baseball,
So.
you know, great American pastime.
And the A's are going to be playing there next year, so I'll be like, hey,
Oh,
we can go see
crap,
the
you
A's
get to
for
go see
like
the
$10.
Oh man, that's gonna be amazing.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to their owner. I don't know. Did you see his letter that he wrote?
Oh, I don't know if I did.
It was pretty much like, yeah, guys, we tried everything we could to stay in Oakland, and we're so sorry that we couldn't get it done for you fans. I wish I could talk to each and every Oakland A's fan all by myself or one-on-one, you know, because I just feel horrible, and that I couldn't extort the city for money. I mean, that I couldn't get you guys a new stadium, but, you know, whatever. There's a really good video of the, I don't know if it's like a San Francisco news outlet or Oakland, if they have their own news outlets, because I'm not too familiar with the Bay Area and like how big the cities are, because you know sometimes big cities don't have their own like news, or sometimes they do, whatever. But the guy that's the sports editor for the TV station did there's a good video of him kind of talking about that letter and kind of pointing out all the facts and stuff about how the current A's ownership has never done a press conference in 15 years.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that insane?
I do appreciate that, like, some baseball ownership is still, like, in the 1960s. Like,
Oh,
with
yeah,
how they run
you know.
things.
And some,
I did find this... Oh, good.
I was just gonna say, and some teams just don't know how to manage anything. So whatever, you know.
Yeah. I found this article by SF Gate, and it's just called A's Billionaire Owner Sends Fans a Goodbye Letter with an Embarrassing Typo.
Oh, there's a typo in it too.
Yeah.
Is it maybe
Looks
that
like...
it's all a lie? Everything he said
No.
in it is a...
So here it is. The typo happened just 3 paragraphs into the solipsistic letter to the fans, where, after reminiscing about Charlie Finley and his mule Charlie-O, Reggie Jackson, Raleigh Fingers, Bill King, and Ricky Henderson, he brought up, quote, the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake in Game 3 of the Bay Bridge series. Beyond the basic I before E except after C rule of grammar that was ignored here, it's rather fitting that Fisher got a detail like that wrong. After all, he is the one removing the team from Oakland in favor of Las Vegas, so it stands to reason that he would not care for the details regarding something so important to the area he's leaving behind.
Yeah. So, shout out to the A's fans out there, because
I feel for you.
Despite the stadium being empty for the majority of the season, there are a lot of them. And they did not do anything to deserve what has gone on with their team relocating to Las Vegas, because we have to put its team in Vegas. Every league. The NHL did it.
The NFL did it too.
Yeah, the NFL did it.
They're going to lose both of their teams to Vegas.
To Vegas.
Unbelievable.
Oh, unbelievable. Anyways, this is Fake Racers Podcast. We talk about racing. We're not moving racetracks anywhere. We move dates away from racetracks. But we don't move the racetrack itself. I'm Joe. That's Matt. Again, we're down a Davey Hazard this week. So there's a topic later on that we'll talk about in our From the Shop segment that we'll probably revisit next week. Just a forewarning for you folks at home. We might not touch on it as deeply, even though it's a very important topic to discuss in the racing world this week. But starting there, Kyle Larson just kicked everyone's ass at Bristol. That's all I have to say about that. But
yeah, that was the definition of putting on a clinic.
467, a 500 lap sled. I think that was the number.
Bowman led like the first 30 laps. Larson ran him down, and it was sayonara after that.
It was over. You know, there's been a lot of criticism of NASCAR short track package this week. They put PJ1 down on the bottom groove before the race to try to promote passing. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things we could do, right? Softer tire, harder tire, run a different car, give them horsepower. Like, there's a lot of things we can do. None of which we will do, unfortunately, at this point. But it just sucks because the race in the spring was so good because of the tires just being dog doo-doo, because that's what they were. You know, it's...
Yeah, I understand them not wanting to recreate that because it's not a good look for Goodyear, but it ended up with a kind of lackluster result. Yes, Joe?
They used the same tire that they did in the spring.
Did they? Okay, so that's the thing. I have not heard a definitive answer on whether or not they changed. I've heard so many people saying different things.
Oh my God. Nobody knows. This is one of those where it's like, nobody knows. It's just weird.
Yeah.
The theory was that the date codes were, so the tires were older. Goodyear apparently makes the tires in a back warehouse somewhere in the middle of Kentucky or something. I don't know. Kentucky. I pick on Kentucky. But they just make it in this really gross old shop supposedly. It's just very outdated and stuff. There's probably unions and whatnot. And I don't know.
I don't know what the answer. I mean, I'll start off with saying I didn't think it was that bad of a race. I thought there was some good action. That maybe it's down to the TV broadcast. I know a lot of races where one driver dominates, it's going to tend to swing that way. What were you gonna say?
I fell asleep during the race. I was a very tired boy.
Yeah, and I might also be skewed by the fact that I was pretty intently following what was happening between Daniel Suarez and Ty Gibbs and the whole playoff battle and everything. But there were some really good battles between. I think it was Truex, Bell, and Briscoe were just 3 wide for 3 or 4 laps straight. There were guys making moves, but it definitely was more processional. But how much is that down to the package didn't work, and how much is that down to the 5 team hit the setup and nobody could touch them all day? Because sometimes that's just going to happen.
Yeah, and we kind of live in this day and age of social media where everyone's got their opinions and none of them are correct. And it's everyone's got to kind of be inflammatory with how they talk about things to try to gain some traction. So I'm sure there's some of that going on, but it was definitely not as good as the spring race. I think that's a definite answer. But again, why that is and how that are two different things. And apparently we don't have the answers to either of those questions. We do know the 4 drivers that have been eliminated from the playoffs, from championship contention. Couple shockers, I think.
A little bit, yeah.
One being, I know we talked about Truex kind of being on a slump as of late, but still thought he'd be able to figure it out. Had a speeding penalty in this race that kind of took him out of contention for that playoff spot because it was hard to pass.
Yeah, I mean, that fully blew it, right? They were a top 5 car all night, and it was their last or second to last pit stop. He speeds on pit road.
He's back
and
in 20th.
It was over from there.
Oh. Similar thing happened with Ty Gibbs. He was running inside the top 10 all of stage 1, and then I believe had a penalty during the stage break. Just never could rebound. Brad Keselowski, they didn't hit on the setup at all, and just had an atrocious opening round of the playoffs. And then Harrison Burton got eliminated. He had a power steering issue in the first stage. This
was so frustrating because everybody penciled in Harrison Burton out round 1, which was the obvious choice. And the 21 team showed up all 3 races and had absolutely nothing to show for it in any of them. Because they wrecked on the last lap at Atlanta, running top 12 all day. They ran fine at Watkins Glen and then had a tire issue, I'm pretty sure. And then, power steering failure immediately in this race just doomed them from the start. And it was so frustrating to watch because it was like the whole time they were still in the hunt. They were only 15 points out coming into this race, which is the craziest part.
That's all that to tell you about how crazy the playoff field is, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is the 2 drivers that didn't win a race all this year, I think a lot of people had them advancing out of this first round. They didn't advance.
Yep.
The 2 drivers that made it in on points did not advance. So for all the folks that like to say, oh, we need more guys making it in on points, or, the win you're in sucks, I guess it's a small sample size of 3 races, but I don't know. And 12 winners moved on,
Yeah. Well, we gotta give a shout out to a couple of the guys who did make it. Chase Briscoe has been I'm not gonna say a dark horse title contender, but they could go on a run. They are running extremely well right now.
This next round could set up pretty good for them again, and he's been to the round of 8 before. So
if they get some momentum if they keep this momentum going, and Briscoe could be a long shot to make the Final 4 at this rate.
Imagine Briscoe walks off with a championship.
Oh my gosh.
Shades of Tony Stewart in 2011. Briscoe had a phenomenal round of 16. Austin Cindric did so well in the first 2 races. It didn't matter. It really didn't matter what he did in this one. Similar with Alex Bowman.
Okay, that was one of the really funny things too, was after stage 2, the 3 people locked in. It was Joey Logano, Christopher Bell, and Alex Bowman.
Yeah.
And it's funny to go back to the whisperings of is Alex Bowman done after this season? And it's I know obviously the goal is can they make it past the round of 12 again, but it is hilarious how almost nobody had a better first round than Alex Bowman.
Yeah, literally nobody had a better first round than Alex Bowman.
Yeah.
I mean, except I guess the guys that won.
But. Also, Daniel Suarez sneaking through. It just goes to show, if you run really well in the first 2 races, you can finish 30th at Bristol and still make it through. And the worst part is they finished 30th on pace.
Yeah.
They didn't have mechanical issues. They just missed the setup. And, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank on Suarez's crew chief's name, but he called a masterclass strategy to get them just enough spots at the end of the race to steal it from Ty Gibbs. And Ty Gibbs was going full baby rage at the end of this race. It was really funny.
You gotta
I don't know if you saw him just start beating on Eric Jones at the end of this race.
Okay,
but
cool. Yeah.
Eric kind of got into him, and Ty Gibbs just about spun him out 4 times in half a lap. It was absurd.
Well, I mean, not surprised. So
yeah,
colored me shocked. So yeah, I mean that was Bristol. It was a pretty tame race for the Cup Series. Xfinity made their debut on the CW. Did you know Dale Jr. was in the race?
Oh, okay.
The
We
fact
gotta talk
that
about
was
that.
part of the marketing for this race. Hey, we're moving to the CW. Hey, guess what? Dale Jr. is in this race too.
So there was like the rumor going into this race that it was like, is this Junior's last Xfinity race ever? Probably not going to be. He's not running a race next year, more than likely. But if he did fully retire after this race, I would not blame him because, good God, did everything that could go wrong in the
freaking
first stage of
got
this race.
champagne everywhere, man. I tell you what. Like,
First,
jerk.
you have the radio issues with the helmet. So he has no audio from his crew chief for like the whole first stage. Then he does a helmet swap. Can't get the Hans device clipped, so he has to come back down pit road again. Then he has to swap out the wiring harness, has to come down pit road a third time on that yellow. Then he accidentally drops the wiring harness down into the car, which cranks the volume all the way up, so he had to tell TJ to be quiet over the radio because he was deafening him. He also had to sit there as an owner and watch Justin Allgaier completely collapse in this race also.
And lose the regular season title.
And blow the regular season championship. So it was a very tumultuous day for Dale Jr.
Don't forget, when they did the helmet swap, he forgot his glasses in the helmet.
Yeah,
so I had to
I forgot about that too.
His glasses at some point.
Yeah, he was driving blind for basically the entire next green flag run.
And he still finished top 10 and probably could have finished top 5, but I think he kind of just gave way to Truex and Brandon Jones.
He got stuck behind Ryan Truex for like 70 laps at the end of this race. God, it's always a good time when Junior comes out and races, and like obviously he's not going to be pissy about it, but it was just funny where it's like literally everything is going
he's
wrong
just out
tonight.
there having fun, and I think that's what makes it good, right? Like, he's just out there being a dude. It's kind of like when you see like, okay, one of the things I adore about like SVG is every time they interview him, he's smiling. He could be pissed off, he's smiling, and you know what? When you give off good vibes, I'll give you good vibes back. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's that easy. It's that easy.
Did you hear his post-race interview talking about racing with Junior for the first time?
No, I didn't.
It was so good. So they had interviewed Junior, and he was talking about how like he's known SVG for years, and he always said he's like, if I ever come to New Zealand, I got to stay with you or whatever. And then they interviewed SVG, and he was talking about, he's like, yeah, we had a pretty good run. We finished like 12th or whatever, and then on the cooldown lap, all of a sudden, Junior's just beating the shit out of my race car. It's just running into him on the cooldown lap. SVG just about changed the finish of this race too, because I do want to talk about it, because Cole Custer gets by Sheldon Creed late, like on a late restart, and kind of skip. So
color me shocked.
Yeah, the ending of this race was interesting because like he was not getting away from Creed. Like he and Chandler Smith were both about a second and a half behind him that whole last run. So Cole was having to push really hard that entire run, and he was not being patient with any lap cars. And he caught Van Gisbergen and kind of roughed him up, and Shane kind of cut down on him down the straightaway. And I was like, Cole, you better watch out. Like, don't mess with this guy right now.
Don't mess with the Kiwi.
So he does end up holding on, but it was really fun to watch that last run as Cole Custer was just like running for his life, like telling people to get the hell out of the way.
Hey man, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Xfinity race rocked. Truck race was okay. Lane Riggs won his second straight.
He might be kind of good,
or,
as it turns out.
I mean, they've hit on something with that team, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be chemistry's finally there, or maybe Lane's finally there, or I don't know.
I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean,
probably.
They've had speed all year. It's just been a matter of, Lane staying out of trouble and making the right choices. And this was another race where, Corey Haim has been dominant and was all over him on that last restart, and Lane just checked out. And that says a lot, especially with the kind of year that Corey Haim's had.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, that was Bristol. Davey was at Bristol for the Friday night Xfinity race. You got to see Parker Clairvin race one more time. That's cool.
Yeah. Hope he had fun. I know he was talking. I think he said he had a pretty good time.
Yeah, it sounded like it.
It was like a late, or no, it was Noah, I think, made a late decision to go to that race, didn't he?
Oh, did he? I don't know.
Yeah.
Cool.
They did take a picture together, so.
Nice.
Yeah. So overall, Bristol, thumbs up. Even if the Cup race was not great. We love Bristol.
We love Bristol here at Track and Turf.
Wherever he is.
He just rolled over on his back. He's like, Belly Road? All right. Well, let's go ahead then and let's go from the shop. Shockwaves around the sport. Spire and Rick Ware Racing announced a driver swap with 7 races left. The rumor's been for months now that Justin Haley was leaving Rick Ware Racing. We didn't know where. Get it? Huh.
God damn it.
He's going to Spire. We did actually know that for a while. He'll be piloting the number 7 next year. Corey LaJoie obviously on his way out. That got announced back in July. And they decided to do the old switcheroo.
This is interesting. It's like what I've talked about, where when they announced he wasn't going to be in the car, I think things had to have gone sour pretty fast for this to happen. And I think after Watkins Glen, which was just like another race of Corey LaJoie having to do basically HR work on his podcast of like, oh, I didn't mean to get into Kyle Busch again, even though it's the second time I've done this. And people forget that Kyle Busch is like a stakeholder in Spire.
So, is he?
Yeah, because when he sold his truck team to Spire, he still owns a minority share in it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So people are like, did Kyle Busch call this in?
Was he like, hey, that one favor.
That's strike 2.
That one favor that I needed.
Oh,
I need
my
it
gosh.
now.
Yeah. So that's big. I think that's going to be pretty cool for Justin Haley. You know, I mean,
they get a head start. Obviously, he's not working with his crew chief for next year yet, but
yeah, Rodney Childers is going to be a huge addition there.
Mm.
I mean, this is basically a 7-race tryout for Corey LaJoie.
Yeah,
and
see if he can stay at Rick Ware.
Do want to point out also, Corey, as is like how it goes, was genuinely running great in this race and got wrecked for something that wasn't his fault.
He has turned it up the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, all the Spire cars in particular, or definitely have, but Corey came to play it and was running, I think, 11th when he got turned by
qualified inside the top
Berry.
10.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like what I've been saying. Like, he has talent. He just needs he needs an organization that can help him harness it every week.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think if he ends up at Rick Ware and they continue their relationship with RFK, that could be a pretty good deal. Brad Keselowski alluded to the fact that Hendrick bought out Justin Haley's contract with RFK and Rick Ware Racing. So Justin Haley is a Hendrick driver.
That's wild.
He'll just be driving a Spire car.
Yeah.
That's where all the rumors about Bowman came from. Whatever.
Yeah.
Because again, of the 4 Hendrick guys, which is the guy that's lowest on the totem pole, I still think you want Alex Bowman to be that guy. But
yeah, I could definitely see them making a move, and like if Haley succeeds and is killing it at Spire, I could definitely see a replacement or even a swap. You know, if Bowman doesn't match it, but I mean, at the same time, you can almost look at it like Jack Sprague was one of their guys back in the day, and they basically made the Haas car the 5th Hendrick car to put him in, and that ended up going poorly. But you know, it's not that like Hendrick has done this before. So
yeah, I mean, at times this year we were talking about Carson Hocevar maybe just moving over to Hendrick too, right? Like, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Spire's also supposedly angling to try to be a Tier 1 Chevy team, so have similar support from the manufacturer that Hendrick gets. Kind of hopping the line a little bit, getting ahead of RCR and Trackhouse. Primarily.
I was gonna say Rick Hendrick's over there, like, or not Rick Hendrick, Richard Childress is like, what the hell, man? Like, I thought we were next.
So, you know, there's gonna be rumors after next season about Kyle Busch and what's gonna happen where he's gonna be too. Wouldn't be surprised if that's a, silly season domino for next year.
Yeah.
You see Kyle maybe make his way over to Spire somehow. Because all those guys, I'm assuming, are signed to multi-year deals, unless Hocevar gets poached by somebody.
I was going to say, I mean, at this rate, Hocevar might be a hot target.
So. I mean, he should be, right?
Yeah.
I just don't know where. Who knows? Nobody knows. Maybe he's going to front row, because we still don't know who's going to drive their third car, or if they're going to be in the Cup Series next year. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, baby. Yeah. But it really does just feel like we're waiting for like the final couple things to fall in place.
Yeah.
And the longer it goes on, the more we're like,
yeah.
Are you sure you guys have this figured out?
You got your charter, but there's still 5 charters not accounted for.
Yeah.
Maybe 6. But we don't know. Riley Herbst apparently in limbo. Ooh. Wouldn't that suck if that deal fell through? Ugh. Yikes.
Yeah, I'm trying to, like, what? God, that would be a disaster.
Because he had an offer from Haas to return to that team in Xfinity next year, and he said no.
Yeah. Well, so we still have one Stuart Haas charter that's unaccounted for, right? And if I recall
no, we have
correctly.
2.
So
there are 2 that will be sold.
They're keeping one.
They're keeping one. One is definitely going to front row.
Yeah, they've already reached an agreement for that. So
there's 2.
We know Trackhouse needs one, or wants one at least, because SVG is going to be in a third car.
Yeah.
2311 wants a third one.
RFK.
RFK is the other one. Oh my god. Okay, yeah. So 3 teams basically vying for 2 of them.
We still don't know if Colleague is going to be a 2-car cup operation next year, or 3, or 1.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They definitely are not going to be 3.
God, what a mess.
And 2311, like, the thing with 2311 is, they're staying because they just invested all this money.
Yeah. I think the thing that probably makes the most sense is because Trackhouse and Colleague have had pretty close ties, maybe they're going to get that charter from Colleague, and Colleague will just be a 1-car team.
Yeah.
So, because, the rumors that Hamrick's out, I don't know who would be replacing him.
Ty Dillon.
That's true. It could be Ty Dillon. Well, Ty Dillon did just get removed from
yeah, he did.
the Rackley War Truck.
2nd year in a row that team's done that.
Yeah. God, I just want answers. I'm sick of speculating. I just want to know.
One thing we don't have to speculate about anymore, Harrison Burton, Daytona winner. He's a Cup Series winner. He won the 100th race for Wood Brothers. No one can take that away from him. But he'll be racing for AM Racing next year in Xfinity.
It could go very well, or could be a complete disaster.
Who knows?
Because, like, AM Racing has basically top tier Ford equipment, and there's a lot of smart people there, but they just don't run well. Big shout out, or actually, I don't know if I can say this on the show. But a friend of ours designed their paint scheme from this week, and that was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good opportunity for Harrison. I just hope that, like, the swirling chaos that has been AM Racing doesn't sink him any further. I think having a, like, solid race-winning, like, veteran driver, and he's going to be there whole season. It's not just, like, dropping Joey Logano in for some races. I think that's going to help. Yeah. Because Haley Deegan was a complete question mark, and that was a disaster.
And still a question mark, to be fair.
Yeah, nobody knows what she's going to do next year, if she's even going to be racing. She was at the SMX finals this weekend, so she was not at anything NASCAR related. She was in Vegas, watching her brother win. So who knows? And that was not meant to be a dig at Haley.
No, I know.
Yeah. It was just funny, like, watching the whole Deegan family
succeed while she's a failure. Wow, Matt, that's real nice of you.
I mean, she has more NASCAR wins than Hayden Deegan, so
that's true. That's true.
Checkmate.
More NASCAR wins than me.
Yeah, it was funny though, because just like watching all the Deegans like celebrate after Hayden won the title, and then Haley's there also, and I'm like, wait a second,
why are you here? Shouldn't you be somewhere else?
Yeah, So yeah, I hope this works for Harrison. There's a lot of potential.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
For sure. All right, big breaking news this week. Alex Rossi's going to ECR. Breaking news this week. So we'll see what happens there with Ed Carpenter Racing.
It's really depressing to think about that Alexander Rossi turned down Penske after 2019.
Yeah.
Or was it Ganassi? He turned down one of the top two teams.
Yeah, to stay with Andretti, right?
And it's gone very poorly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pain.
Moments in time. But IndyCar, here's some other fun stuff. And this is the thing I was talking about earlier, alluding to, that we'll probably talk about a little bit next week when Davey's back. IndyCar is going to have a charter system next year. Each team is allowed up to 3 charters. So, your Penske's, your Ganassis, your Andretti's, they're going to have 3. I think Ray Hall's going to have 3.
I'm looking right now. Ray Hall has 3, yeah.
A lot of other teams are going to have 2. Like ECR. Oh, Arrow has 3 too, right?
I have the breakdown right here if you want it.
Read it off for the folks at home.
Foyt has 2, Andretti has 3, Arrow McLaren has 3, Ganassi has 3, which means they have to get rid of 2, or 2 teams at least are going to be open if they're not getting rid of them. Coyne has 2, Carpenter has 2. Is it Juncos? I think that's pronounced.
Juncos, yep.
Juncos has 2, Meyer Shank 2, Ray Hall 3, Penske 3. So, and interestingly, Prima, the new team coming from, I believe F2, has none.
Yep.
Which is a problem.
A little bit. I'll figure it out. So, when has IndyCar ever screwed something up? Had the best racing on the planet like 2 years ago, and here we are.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
Clubs.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know what to think about this. I like that it doesn't guarantee them entry into the Indy 500, which is, I think,
that was the sticking point, right?
Yeah, when these rumors first started up and we talked about this months ago, that was the one thing where like, that's special and you can't get rid of it, It's kind of removed some of the luster from Daytona 500 qualifying, and I'm glad that they didn't lose that. I don't know, man. Davey will definitely have some strong things to say about it, and we'll probably talk more in length next week. If it works and it helps these teams, succeed and take in more money and be more competitive, then sure. So,
yeah, I just don't see how it does that, Yeah. I don't know what guaranteeing entry into races that won't have more than 26 entries, 27 or 28, what that really does.
Yeah.
It just says I have a meal ticket, but the meal is hot and ready pizza. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
so right here, a non-Indy 500 car limit of 27 has been reported by, this is on therace.com, reported by Racer, which corresponds with last year's amount of total full season entries and was also the number of cars at the start in all but 2 events, the aforementioned 33-car Indy 500 and the 28-car Portland race where Ray Hall ran a 4th entry for Yuri Vips. So it's one of those things where like you mentioned, it's not really that nice of a ticket where in all but one race, you're not going to be filling out the grid, right?
Well,
like you don't have to worry about DNQing.
And it's the reason why the NASCAR charter system works is the way that the NASCAR charter system is structured is your payout for this year is based on where you finished last year in the points. A large percentage of the money these teams make every week comes from that. And that's why it works, because it makes the teams have to go back to the track, and if they want to sell the charter, they can sell the charter. And then that team that's buying said charter knows exactly at least the bare minimum amount of money they're going to make each and every week. That's why it works. Don't see that in the IndyCar charter agreement. I would assume that's how it's going to work, but I don't know, because then they also mention that, well, there's this top 22 award for points, and that money is, you got to be in the top 22 to still get that. It's not getting divvied up for all the chartered teams. So it's confusing, it's frustrating, it's weird, I don't know. I don't know what intrinsic value an IndyCar team really has for an outside investment company. Besides, hey, now we have this piece of paper that says we can start every race, except the one that actually makes people money.
Yeah, the only one that anybody outside of IndyCar actually cares about.
Yeah. So, who knows?
Yeah, it it goes back to I don't know what to call the NASCAR charter agreement, but I mean these were all of the same debates that we had when that implemented, and like all things in life, I think there are pros and cons to it. We've definitely seen in NASCAR an increase in, like competitive teams, like Rick Ware Racing is genuinely trying. There's no Jay Robinson anymore. There's no Starcom. There's no BK Racing. All these teams that just showed up to make a paycheck. And
Spire back in the day.
Yeah, and I think it's I don't necessarily know if those things are like terrible that we lost them. It sucks to lose the idea that a new team can't just show up and try to post up, which is what Prima's going to have to do. I mean, they are entering at the worst possible time because everybody else is getting a massive cash influx and they're not.
Yep.
And it's one of those things where if this goes poorly, like you have a perfect example right there. And I think they are going to be the perfect kind of like test subject for, is this going to be okay?
Yeah.
Because if they show up and they run better than say Juncos or Dale Coyne, but they go bankrupt, they run out of money in 2 years and those teams still exist, and it's like, then what's the point?
Here's the other thing. NASCAR, there's been 2 non-chartered teams that have run an entire season without a charter. 2. Wood Brothers did it for Blaney's rookie year, and JTG did it for 1 year for Ryan Preece.
Yeah.
It's only happened twice. And we've had the current charter agreement for 10 seasons. There's been 40 opportunities for that to happen. Maybe not 10, maybe 8. Anyways.
It was 2016, I think, is the year.
8 seasons. So out of the 32 opportunities, only 4, or only 2 rather, have actually run the whole season. So you see, it's just that's the one thing I don't like about the charter agreement, because it pretty much guarantees you're not going to have a full field.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of the franchise method of team ownership and racing. And I know it does have the benefit of, it gives these teams something that is like concretely worth something, right? You have a value for your team. But like if it's what I've always gone back to with things like F1, where being a Formula One team is not a lucrative business in and of itself, right? The thing that makes it a lucrative business is the fact that you have the prestige of, we're the only people who get to have an F1 team and other people can't enter. That's why they're literally trying to block Andretti from joining, because Andretti joining devalues everybody else, because it's another
2 teams.
Hand in the pot.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's frustrating to have, teams like this that want to start up cars and they just can't, right? Like, can you imagine the NASCAR field would be better if 2311 can field a third competitive car? Mm-hmm. And it might not happen because of this. So, and again, like I've said, this is not me saying charters are inherently bad. It's all pros and cons. And at what point do the cons outweigh the pros? So I have mixed feelings about it. I'm sure Davey will I think he'll probably be more optimistic about it, because he's definitely been more pro charter. And that's not to say he's wrong. But we'll see.
I have a feeling he will be pretty negative about the IndyCar one, but we will see next week. That's your tease for next week's show, which will also be a little bit late, most likely next week, but I digress.
Yeah.
All right, Matt. It's time for everyone's favorite segment of the night, bottom split moments. I would like to go first this week.
Okay.
Do you want to hear what my bottom split moment is?
Yeah.
Will Levis, man. That quarterback. Bottom split moment. He's struggling. We have a new funniest quarterback in the NFL.
So, move over Jameis Winston.
I appreciate the fact that he's given us one good screen grab every week. So.
I hope it keeps going.
Me too.
I really do.
Me too.
He's making the thumbnail game easy for oof sides.
Fair enough. Yeah. Racing World, it was just Harrison Burton. But whatever.
Yeah. My bottom slip moment of the week is Justin Allgaier. Man, it's not often that you just see everything snowball, because they came into this race with like a big lead in the regular season championship too, and then he gets wrecked by a lap car when the Jordan Anderson's 2 cars wrecked, and he gets his rear bumper ripped off, and that puts him behind the 8 ball. And then he's driving like hell to get back up to the front, and he gets back to the top 5, and then he wrecks himself and hits the inside wall. And then the crew, like, they're all working on the car, and one of the crew members just leaves a Sawzall on the ground in front of the car, and he runs it over and drags it all the way across the track, and there's sparks flying everywhere. Apparently it still worked after that, and it was like, all right, but they're pretty much killed. And then just in case there was a shot that he was going to get back into it, he spun out a 3rd time, and that was basically the end of it. And they lost the regular season title, and his crew chief was not very happy with him after the second incident. Just straight up told him, I don't want to talk about it right now. Like when Justin was asking him what happened.
I don't want to talk to you right now. I'm good. I'm okay.
So that was a mess.
Yep. Road to Pro moment this week?
And you thought you weren't going to get motocross on this week's episode. It was the SMX playoff finale. It was not very good. It was pretty lame. But one cool thing that did happen, the Troy Lee Designs owned Gas factory team is going away at the end of the year because KTM is strong-arming them, and it sucks, and everybody's not very happy about it. But that said, it's been a pretty miserable year for them, and Pierce Brown, who had only scored 1 podium in his career up until this point and had never won anything, went P2 in the first moto and like genuinely gave Hayden Deegan hell in the first moto. Got his only good start of the season in Moto 2 and scampered away and won and got his first career win and sent the Troy Lee owned team out on top, which is pretty cool. So it is cool to think about it. And they were only the factory gas team for 4 years, and they won on debut with Justin Barcia, and they won their final race with Pierce Brown. So we salute to you. And also, Filthy Phil Nicoletti, everybody's favorite grumpy old man of motocross, did wrap up his career. So congrats on a great journeyman career. I tip my hat and I flip the double birds for you, Phil. So
nice.
Enjoy retirement.
My road to pro moment was I don't know if you saw the stat line from the Michigan USC game.
I did not.
Michigan ran the ball for over 300 yards and passed the ball for 32 yards. We are officially a service academy.
Where's the run the damn ball sticker?
So,
oh my god!
How many rushing yards was it total?
290.
Yeah.
To 32 passing yards.
Yeah, and one.
The forward pass is a fad.
It is. Let me tell you. So big shout out to Cleo Mullins. If you get a chance to watch his run in the 4th quarter, that got us a chance to win the game. Because we were down at that point. Go watch it because it's a big boy football run. Yeah, he needs to be a starting running back. That's my Michigan football update for the week here on the racing podcast. But road to pro moment relating to racing.
Well, we don't do those here.
Has to go out to Brad Keselowski for just being like, yeah, I don't like Hendrick Motorsports, and I'm gonna just rat them out right now. Even though I probably shouldn't. So
that is like 15 years of him being mad at Hendrick.
Hey man, I would be mad too if I had a contract signed and they ripped it up for a guy that was going to retire in a year.
And then we're like, oh, sorry, Brad, we just can't find a way to put you in a car. Anyway, Casey Kane's going to be here in 2 years.
Yeah. Whatever.
We'll figure that one out.
Brad won the championship that year anyway, so.
Yeah.
Dodge
one
left.
Of the ultimate, like, spite championships. Like,
does not get talked about enough.
No.
Does not get talked about enough.
I was going to say, if we weren't at the end of the show, I would talk more about that, because it was like one of my favorite title battles of all time.
Oh, yeah. It was so good. It was so good.
Yeah.
12-year-old me was so happy. And then I watched Brad just drunk off his ass on wind tunnel. It was great. It was amazing. But
oh man.
Yeah, that was this week's edition of the Fake Racers podcast. As always, encourage you folks, if you're over here on the Track and Turf YouTube page, make sure you also go check out Oof Sides this week. Matt, Dewey, and Steven recap week 3 of the NFL action and get you ready for week 4. Any fun stuff you want to highlight? Because we're recording after Oof Sides this week, so
we talked at length about how the Bears are ruining Caleb Williams, so that was fun.
I hope they keep doing that.
We talked about
Caleb Williams ruined Caleb Williams, by the way. We can talk about that off air.
I don't know if I'd go that far. What else did we talk about? Oh, Sam Darnold is the MVP. I will not be hearing any slander. You just go watch the show. It's good. I really liked this week's episode. Oh, we talked a lot about the Jags and Bills. That was one that we went pretty long on. And Jaden Daniels is like the real deal. So
crazy.
Joe, you definitely need to listen to this week's episode because there's something at the end that you'll appreciate. So.
Okay, all right. That's my plan for tomorrow. I meant to do it today, but it was a busy day at work. So
yeah,
tomorrow's a busy day at work too, but I'll make more time tomorrow.
Yeah,
love you. Folks, again, so next week's episode will most likely be recorded again on Wednesday, so it'll be getting out into your feeds a little bit later than usual. Sorry, my Detroit Lions play on Monday Night Football, and
we have our priorities straight here at Track and Turf Media.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the priorities are whatever I want, and then everyone else just listens.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wrap us up.
That's what Joe's about telling me to not talk about the Packers ever on Oof Sides. So
can't do
if
it.
he says that, I'm going to have to do that. So,
but folks, as always, can't thank you enough for watching, for listening. However you support us, leave a like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys next week on the Fake Racers podcast.
Goodbye.